All right. So I'm super excited about this interview today. I'm here with my friend Jessica. So welcome back to the Co-Creators Podcast. The reason why I'm so excited for this is because Jessica when I think of her, I think of encouragement. Literally, like just her light that she gives out to the world. So how do I say it? So for me, I believe that God will use everything and anything he can when he wants you, especially if you're holding yourself back from something, like he'll use whatever he can to give you that little push. And so I'm just so thrilled to have Jessica here today because she was that little push for me. So Jessica, thank you so much for being here.
I am so happy to be here, Candace. Thank you so much for having me. And I always love our conversations. And so I'm excited to see where this is going to take us today.
Yes, I know. So it's funny. Like we started talking, we got on. Well, I think it was like 30 minutes ago. We were supposed to start this interview. We literally talked like the whole 30 minutes. And we're like, okay, we need to get this started. So Jessica, I want you tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us, and it's kind of unfair for me because I know a little bit of your story. And I guess let's start with that. So, what got you into encouraging others?
Oh my goodness. Okay. Okay, story. Let's see. You know what? I think it's been kind of like in my DNA, always have like this desire to want to encourage others. Like when I think back in my past and everything, always been encouraging others. But, you know, I through even with doing that, I always didn't feel whole within myself. I felt like I lost a lot of, self-worth. I didn't really believe in myself or have confidence in myself. And that started shifting for me in 2014. I had gotten out of my environment. So I'm originally from Northern Ontario, but I was living in Western Canada, got new friends, started dipping in a little bit into spirituality. And then I really started to understand just a little bit more of who I am. And maybe I had a greater role in this world as a co-creator than I had originally thought I would. I thought that I had a little bit more power. And I started really getting into meditation and turning more to the universe and God. And there was one moment, it was in 2015 that I was telling you about, Candace. And it was that moment where I just kind of opened up and I said, okay, God, I'm here for it. I want this beautiful life and tell me what it is that you want me to do. I'm here. And then, it was probably about a month or so after that, I ended up having to return back home to Northern Ontario. There was a lot of challenges that happened with my current relationship at the time. Everything kind of just fell apart. And then a week and a half after I got back home, I was in a severe motor vehicle accident. I wasn't expected to survive the next 3 days. I was immediately airflown to a neighboring community that actually had the facility to be able to treat my injuries. And when I woke up in the hospital, I was informed that my life was about to look a lot differently. I mean, when I first woke up, they were, concerned that I wasn't going to be able to talk anymore. And then I was a complete dependent, couldn't feed myself. I was in a wheelchair, all of that. And so I was told that, you're not going to return back to work. You're not going to complete your schooling. And I was in my third year of my business degree. You're going to be dependent for the rest of your life, basically. And then with all of that, it's kind of good luck with a social life because not too many people will, really resonate with you after that. And that was just I was kind of just given all of that as soon as I woke up, right? But I had these moments in the hospital. And there was one point in particular that I share so much. And that's really where this power of encouragement came from. And I was having that moment that we hear so many people have when they face death. And it's that moment when they look back at their life and often regret, wishing they would have done things differently when they actually had the time to do it and the chance to do it. And because, my life wasn't in any physical danger anymore at that point. But again, the life that I was living had come to an end. And so I remember thinking to myself, like, why didn't I take that chance? Why didn't I say yes to that opportunity? Like, why didn't I believe in myself more? Because I really realized in that moment just how much I was creating my life experience based on how I was thinking. That really my mind, and this kind of ties in, Candace, to again what we were talking about when we press record, like our mind creates so much, and I was creating so much limits on myself just based on the way that I wanted to believe of myself and believe about the world. And so I kind of set myself free in that moment, in that hospital. I made a promise to myself that no matter how I was going to move forward, I wasn't going to let those thoughts hold so much weight anymore. That I was going to set myself free. And then again, like one thing led to the other, but it was, to where I am today, having recovered fully, completed my degree, went back to work, started a business where I'm just meeting incredible entrepreneurs such as yourself, Candace. And so I really feel like having done that and gone through, the past, I'm going up on 9 years since the accident now.
Oh, wow.
That's really just where I really get my desire to want to encourage everyone and anyone just to do the thing that they really want to do. So when we were chatting, you're like, I want to start a podcast. I'm like, do it. Really, because we really have the power to be able to do in life what it is that we feel called towards.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah. And that was when we first met, because you even helped me name it. Because I remember talking to you about, it's about creators, and then, creating community, because I was starting to get into more of like the networking and putting myself out here and, meeting people that I felt just joy from them. And then I remember because I think I was going to call it like creators or something. And you're like, why don't you call it co-creators? Because of the community. And I was like, that's it. And literally that day, I think it was like 30 minutes off after we got out of the call, I put my 2-minute snippet up and I was like, we're doing this. And I had not had any experience with that. I think I literally went onto like the Apple podcast thing and then saw, I've been designing and stuff. So I've been around, all kinds of sites. So it's not hard for me to figure things out, but the way it just happened so quickly. Like, for me, I felt like it was like the Holy Spirit, like just took off with me. I was like, okay, here we go. You know what I mean? But I'm just so grateful to have you here, because how cool is that to have somebody who God used to push you, like to talk to them and ask them and to hear your story. Like when you first told me, I was just like, wow, you're a miracle. Like you're a walking miracle. Like it's amazing. And then you're taking this other, part of your life to help encourage others. You didn't know me. I don't even, you know what I mean? Like, I don't even know why you reached out to me. You know what I mean? Because at the time when you reached out to me, I had just started a new profile. Probably didn't have maybe like but a handful of people on there, and just something, I don't know, pushed you to send me a message. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and I love it because now, again, just as we were talking about it before hitting record, it's like the amount of people that there are on social, right? And the amount of people reaching out and everything. So even for you to see my message and be like, I'm going to move forward with this one, it's just, there's such a beautiful alignment.
Yes. Yeah, it really was. And cause and then you even, bringing me on to your, in your space, you know what I mean? And being able to share like the gifts that I have as, creative director and designing and things like that. Like that was just so much fun for me. Honestly, I don't even think I've told you this yet, but that moment I was like, I can do this. Like, I can put myself out here and help others.
Yes, you absolutely can. And it was an incredible and valuable episode that you shared. So for your audience that's watching, that is up on YouTube as well. And we're going to put it up on yours as well, right?
Yes.
I'm just remembering this now. I'm so sorry. I'm going to send that to you. Realize that I did.
I forgot too.
So well done.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. That's hilarious. Okay, so you told us about your miracle. So what all do you do now? Like, guys, I mean, I know, right, what all you do, but tell people that are listening, like, how do you encourage? What are you doing now? You know what I mean? To encourage others.
Yeah. So, I mean, I started my entrepreneurship journey in 2019, but I originally started it as a product-based business. So I was brewing kombucha. I don't know if you're familiar.
Oh, I love kombucha. Yeah.
It was so good. So I started brewing that and vending at my local farmers markets. It really started hitting off. And then I ended up partnering with a co-packer. And then I started distributing it to stores around northeastern Ontario.
Oh, wow.
And it was really going. But again, it kind of ties back into, even though I had experienced everything that I experienced and had like the miracle of recovery that I did and everything, and I really wanted to share what it was that I'd been through and share some of the insights and the learnings and like just the knowing of just how like powerful we are at shaping our life. But I didn't completely, totally have the confidence to do that just yet. And kombucha, I mean, I've dabbled a little bit in holistic nutritionist, and so kombucha was always something that has been like in my diet. I'm like, oh my God, you can make your own. I'm going to start doing this and so good. And that was my way to empower people too, because to get into a little bit of health, like our gut health and our brain are so like connected. And so I'm like, oh, this is the way. Like if people really start healing their guts, we can heal the mind and then, heal our bodies as a whole. Yes. Anyway, so that's how it started. But still, I kept having this feeling of like, okay, I mean, I'm doing it. I'm helping. Like I'm, empowering others, encouraging others, making them feel good, like in their physical health, right? But I still felt that like, but I feel like I have more to share. And it was kind of like I was wrestling with this for 3 years, being like, this is doing good here, but I'm still feeling like this isn't really it. Like I'm meant to be sharing something more. So I had started diving more into mindset work at that time as well. I became a certified mindset coach. And it's there that I met 3 amazing other women coaches, and we had decided to write a book together. So we wrote our book, Manifesting with Purpose. You can actually see behind me here. I've got the book and the gratitude journal. So we wrote that together. And then it's around that time when I was like, I'm going to start launching a podcast. And originally the idea for my podcast was sharing stories of others who had experienced, similar injuries as my own or others, and just had really that resilience to continue moving forward. So then I thought, okay, I'm going to launch a podcast. So that kind of all started as I was still having the kombucha business and then doing it all. And then it really just came to the point where I'm like, I think this is too much. I really just have to make the decision. And so finally, it was February 2023, I made the decision to put the kombucha side of my business aside and then just really go full time into like the podcast, the book, and then start building out coaching for myself and how I can really start sharing this information with people in like a really impactful way. So that's kind of like how my journey went and how it came into. And I started, because of the big kind of aha moment that I had in the hospital bed, like that's kind of my thing that I go to whenever I'm feeling, challenges in my life that, or feeling really overwhelmed. I can kind of go back there in my mind, go back to that moment, and it helps me put everything into perspective. Because I'm like, wow, okay, like this is like anchoring me, because I feel like I know that, it's me, right? It's all coming for me and how I want to really look at things and what I'm thinking about. But I couldn't transfer that experience to others that I was working with, right?
Yeah.
Like, what can I do? So I started to do more training in subconscious reprogramming techniques and like hypnosis, EFT tapping, which is something that I do all the time every week in my group. And so I started doing that to be able to incorporate that within my programs and coaching as well. And so it kind of just went from there. I mean, it's still a journey, and I know like I'm just, learning more and really learning like exactly how I am meant to serve. I think it's going to be like a continuous journey of improvement. But yeah, that's kind of how it all came to be.
Awesome. And so, and you're coaching also, I think like podcasting and starting things like that as well too, right?
Yeah. And that's another beautiful way of like how life really does direct you, because it had started as just mindset coaching. And then what was happening is I was having people come in for mindset, but they were like, oh, I'm just here for your podcast though. Like, I just want to learn how you got that. So then I was like, oh, okay. Starting to make a pivot then again.
Yeah.
Now you're right. I do teach people to launch their podcast by combining mindset and the podcast, because a lot of the times, like you're saying, like it's just having that belief in yourself, right? And you can have it. You knew, I mean, you're a creative director. You know how to launch a podcast, how to do all the things, and it's incredible. But it was like, can I do this though? And so you just need the person to be like, yes, you can. Just go. Yeah.
Yes. 100%. Yeah. And that's, that's why I think it's so beautiful, because we're meant to encourage each other, iron sharpens iron, you know what I mean? And so there's so many things like we're supposed to spur each other on to good things. And that's why I think it's so beautiful about what you do, because that is what you do. You help people believe in themselves. You help people, give them that little push, just do it, just get it done. And I think that is just so wonderful. And I'm so happy that you brought up the constant change, because I'm sure anybody that's on my LinkedIn page probably thinks that I'm crazy, because I've changed my title so many times. Because when I first got into this, and I think if this was me last year and I kept doing that, I'd be so embarrassed, right? Like, oh my gosh, I changed my title like 5 times in 1 week, but now I don't care, because because I keep receiving, messages, or I keep, meeting people that are like, no, you're selling yourself short. You need to be doing that, and yes, of course, we need that discernment as well to make sure that the people that are giving us these messages really are people that have our backs and care for us. But I'm just so glad you brought that up, because it's okay to change. You know what I mean? It's okay to pivot. It's okay to, like for me, when I first started this, I got into I guess I was going to just do like creative services. So like if you needed a logo or a brand, like you would hire me, or if, you needed graphics for your post, like you'd hire me. But now I'm more into like, I want to teach people how to do that. I want to teach other designers, because that was one thing that brought me so much joy. And I feel that like when you truly teach, like, and I know you have experienced this, when you see people, like it just, that light goes on in their eyes, like I can do this, or, oh, I get it now, or it just brings you so much joy,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think it definitely is like, it's the natural progression, right? And that's why I, was very conscious of the title that I was going to name this new program to launch your podcast. I titled it Just Launch, because it really is like just launch.
Yes.
Whether that's podcasting or something else. And it's also the realization that like, you don't know until you actually get into it. So like, you started, offering services on one thing, and then it kind of branches off and you're like, no, wait, I'm going to teach others to do this. And that's exactly like, even for my mindset coaching, started off talking about one thing and then starting to realize, oh no, wait, people want this. And these are some of the blockages that people feel like. knowing that you're not going to know until you just do the thing.
Yes.
And then life just kind of takes you into these places that you couldn't even conceptualize or think about right now because you're so bottled by like the fears or the insecurities.
The what ifs
just rise. And then and then
start walking
so much better. Yeah.
Yes. That's ironic because the last episode, that's what it was about, was stepping out. And so I think that that's beautiful that we're going on to this now. It's like stepping out and just doing it, just launching it. And you're right. Like, you're not going to know until you start walking down that path. You're not going to know until you're out there and actually doing it. And there was one thing that really has helped me, because when I started my YouTube videos, I was just like, I don't like cringe, right? Like, what am I going to say? I think my very first video, you don't even see my face. It's just me recording and teaching like how to cut out an image or something. And I just remember I think I was in another like networking group, and they were saying, take imperfect action. And they were almost like, accept it. Accept that your first 10 videos are going to be cringe. Accept that you're going to go back 5 years later and see that first video and be like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe that's me. That's part of growing. That's part of just getting on that journey, like you said. But yes, taking imperfect action. Just launch.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I want to kind of offer maybe like a different way to look at it, because I used to think so too. Like, if I look at things way back when and then I cringe, I'm like, oh my gosh, but now, because I'm so grateful for those steps that I took, I look back at me with love, with gratitude.
Oh, yes. I love that.
And look at me here. And if you could look at, okay, even like, my first podcast episode to where I am now, or my first YouTube video.
Yes. I get all this growth.
Change. Yes. And it's so beautiful. And I thank myself for, being able to take that first step and then continue and keep going. There's a lot of times like, keep going. You're 5 years from now, like, you're going to thank where you are now. And it's true. Like, you are giving yourself the greatest gift for your future self, and like a greatest time for where it is that you want to take your life, by just taking that step and then being able to look at the growth that you've experienced.
Yes.
Like, it's so beautiful.
Yeah. And that's so true. Like, even as a creative, like, just going back and looking at the first maybe design or first photos that I did, and just like, wow, look at that growth. And it's funny you say that, because I would never, as like my students, or like students that I've had, or designers that I've mentored, I would never be like, oh, cringe, look where you started. I would be like, wow, look at the growth. Look where you started here and look where you are now. So that's true. Like, even I'm so glad that you brought that up. So even talking about your past self, still speak in love. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's so powerful. I mean, you're making such a great point that, like, yeah, you would never say that to a student. You would always be encouraging. And so it's also a reflection for us to be like, why would I treat myself that way? Like, what is it that I need to heal to be able to truly love myself and look at myself in that light of, this being who's just growing into more of who they are every day, every new step that I take.
Yeah. See? I needed to hear that today.
I do, Candice, if I can just say too, because when you were talking about earlier about, switching your LinkedIn profile. I was totally like that too, just like changing all the time. And I do see other people, like, it's totally fine, like, as we're in this material and figuring things out. But one thing that I do want to offer, because it really, really helped me, and maybe, some of your audience might want to try it, or it might resonate, is like, because as creative entrepreneurs or just creative individuals, there are so many ideas that we get, like, all the time. And sometimes it's hard to really figure out, like, okay, which one do I want to jump on and start moving forward with the way? Because, I mean, oh my gosh, we can almost stay stagnant with the amount of ideas that we get, and like, start here and then,
that's so true. Yeah.
So what I've been doing with myself is kind of like a three-time rule. if I think of something first, and I'm like, oh, I like that, I'm going to write that down, forget about it. If it comes up again, then I'll take note. I'll be like, okay, 2 times. It's the second time that I'm thinking about it. Maybe it is meant for something, but I'm going to leave it. Again, if it's meant to be, it'll come back up again. And then if it comes up a third time, then I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's dive into this more.
Yes.
So I wanted to share that if it offers, some, I don't know, support.
It does definitely for me, because I'm like, my mind's always like, oh, boom, 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 like all these ideas. And I feel like that's almost, like you said, that's almost kind of held me back a little bit too. Cause I'm like, well, I can do this. I mean, and I don't, these past couple meetings that I've had with just other entrepreneurs, and I've said it a few times, like I am a not like, just this hair has all this knowledge in it, like all this, these abilities, and I'm glad though I've received, messages and just advice from other people of like, but what is it that you're passionate about? Like, what is the thing that really brings you joy? And that's what you need to focus on. And so, and I've been receiving like that I need to step back. And so just hearing you say that 3 times, to me, that's another way of telling me that, yes, have the idea, like you said, write it down, and just step back from it a little bit. And then I like how you said, if it comes back again, you know what I mean? 2 more times. Well, then there you go. That's your answer. Do that.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Oh yeah. Because I've experienced too, where you almost just stay stagnant because of all the ideas, and you're like, oh my God. Or then, you do one thing, and then the next day you're like, oh no, I'm going to take that off. And it's like, just give it a moment then.
Yes. I love it. I love it. Okay, Jessica. So how can people contact you? What if we've got friends out there that are like, I want to do this podcast thing too? Like, how can they get in your program?
For sure. Yeah. So if they want to get into my program, the best bet would be to go to my website. So my website is tresorhouse.ca. I will give it to you, Candace, so you can put that in the show notes, because it is a French word. Sometimes when people hear Tresor House, but basically, Tresor is the French word for treasure, because French is my first language.
I love that.
So really, with all of that is really like, the treasure is within you, guys. It's right? So you have the power to direct what it is that you're thinking about. So yeah, you can find all of my podcast, my books, my course, all of my offerings on my website. My podcast is called Empower from Within. And I have, incredible guests such as yourself, Candace, who come on to share, things to help the creative entrepreneur move along. And then I also share just incredible stories of people and how we can really begin that inner healing process, so that we do have the confidence to go out and make what it is that we want to create while we're here. And then Empower from Within is also a Facebook group that you can join in as well, to connect with other entrepreneurs and start hearing a little more about podcasting and how you can incorporate podcasts in your business.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for just sharing your story with us. And I think like I said, you're a miracle. Mm. You're such a blessing, and you're such a light to people. So keep shining. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's really such a pleasure to be able to share with you and your audience.
So my goal for the podcast is to have a Bible quote that relates to the message that we are sharing in the podcast. And so my beautiful friend, Jessica, she, to me, is just a light, and she encourages people, to step out. And like, as you heard in the podcast with her, she shared with us about her journey and when she gave her life to God, and the moment that she was told that her life was potentially over, that she didn't allow that to stop her from fighting and living. And, to me, like I said, in the episode, she is a walking miracle. And so the verse that I felt really went well with this was 1 Thessalonians 5:11. Therefore, encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing. So continue to encourage one another, and always remember the most important thing in this life is your relationship with God and your mindset. It says in the Bible to stay in joy no matter where you are on your journey. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.